A big part of how a movie influences the audience and their reviews is how the characters deal with various situations.
I like to hear them scream.
Horror movies, in particular, aren't anything special when it comes to making the characters deal with rather grim circumstances. Seriously, these characters might just be the dumbest in all of fiction.
He made me do it.
But some of these characters did think, why die when you have one more day to live? If only all of them had that common sense. Today, we bring you the 10 smartest decisions made in horror movies. This list will focus on some of the best decisions that horror movie characters made, that somehow ended up saving their lives by not following the stereotypical ways that get most of these characters killed. Before we begin, make sure you've pressed that subscribe button and have that notification bell ringing, so you don't miss any of our future updates. And we have some major spoilers up ahead. Number 10. Aaron dumps all stereotypes. You're Next. Released in 2011, You're Next is a slasher movie that doesn't get enough recognition. And part of that is how the writers made Aaron's character extremely relatable. We all like to put ourselves in the shoes of a character and imagine scenarios of what we would do if that were to happen to us. And Aaron is exactly like that. When her boyfriend's family starts getting slaughtered by outside strangers, Aaron finds herself in a tight spot, where she has to make the right decisions in order to survive. One wrong move and you go down with the groove. And you might think that Aaron escapes most of the time without putting up a fight, but no, she escapes while taking down her nemesis. For the entirety of the movie, Aaron shows no sign of hesitation and uses various traps and household appliances as weapons. Her resourcefulness and quick thinking leads her to make the right choices, even in some very close encounters against the murderers. Number 9. Breaking Out. 10 Cloverfield Lane. Nobody would have guessed 10 Cloverfield Lane to be more of a thriller horror after the first Cloverfield was such a monster hit in the sci-fi horror genre. But this doesn't mean that the movie failed to deliver, and one of the major selling points of the movie is our protagonist's conflict with herself. Michelle is reluctant to believe that Howard, the man who saved her from the outside world and is providing her shelter inside a bunker, is actually a serial killer.
What do you think you're doing?
I'm asking for pepper.
Like hell you were. What was that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
But when she musters enough evidence that he is indeed what she thinks he is, Michelle makes the right choice of developing an escape plan rather than confronting Howard up front.
No! Don't open that door! They're going to get all of them killed!
Had Michelle grabbed a kitchen knife and charged towards Howard, things would have gone differently. But she in fact decided to make a hazmat suit and use a ventilation shaft to escape. She also made sure that one way or another, Howard stayed inside that bunker, even if it meant as a corpse. Number 8. Double Shot. Scream. The Scream franchise never seems to run out of ghost faces. Every single movie is the same killer with the same mask and the same killing techniques, but our protagonist Sidney has managed to overcome them all, and during her adventures with these psychopaths, she has learned a thing or two. In the second installment of the Scream franchise, Sidney finally manages to put an end to the terror of the new Ghostface murderer. And when he is down on the ground, shot and presumably dead, Sidney pulls out her gun one more time and shoots him in the head one more time, just to make sure that he is dead. At that moment, you can see the murderer's body slightly twitching in pain, meaning that Sidney's instinct was right and he wasn't dead after all. But that last bullet sealed the deal. Number 7. Lights On, Lights Out. How difficult is it to fight a monster that can only manifest itself in the darkness? You just have to stay outdoors during the day and have all the lights on during the night. Easy peasy, but not so lemon squeezy, because the monster in 2016's Lights Out comes with a degree in electrical engineering. When Brett finds himself stuck with Diana, the monster of the dark, he needs to get some source of light to keep Diana away, as she has managed to cut off power from the entire house. While running to check a few things, Brett's flashlight is thrown away from his hand, and Diana has him down and ready for death. But Brett manages to lose the monster by flashing his cell phone screen on her. Fast forward a little and we see Brett running towards the garage on the outside, and gets thrashed down by Diana yet again. This time, the monster wastes no time and prepares Brett for what seems like a suplex. But lucky for Brett, his car is facing right at them, so he uses his keys to turn on the headlights and lose Diana yet again. This guy should be the leader of a Boy Scout group. Always prepared. Number 6. Chase a Ghost, The Shining. It goes without saying that The Shining is one of the, if not the greatest horror thriller out there. One of the main reasons the movie is such a classic is that the victims or characters that are being haunted put up a damn good fight.
Here's Johnny.
While Sydney is the one holding back her possessed husband and saving the kids for the entirety of the movie, it goes without saying that little Danny really outsmarted his psychotic father by making him chase a ghost. When Jack chases Danny outside the snowy grounds, Danny realizes he cannot outrun his father, and then comes up with a plan to make his father chase nobody. He carefully walks backwards and gives the idea to his chasers about the direction he is moving in, all the while moving towards the opposite direction. This ends up saving Danny's life as Jack is stuck chasing someone who isn't even there. Number 5. Ash Brings the Fire, Evil Dead 2. Ash is one of the most badass and comedic protagonists in horror history, and he is a character who doesn't like to follow the stereotypical ways. After the decapitated head of his girlfriend turned witch bites his hand, he experiences somewhat of a spirit on his hand, almost as if his hand was the only part of his body that was possessed. In a desperate attempt to free himself from this terror, he picks up a nearby chainsaw and solves the problem by cutting his hand off. This doesn't stop his hand from bothering him further.
So deadly.
So he finds an alternative to the missing part of his body. That's right, he attached a freaking chainsaw to his amputated hand. He then uses his new cyber arm to fight off the evils he encounters, and makes for one hell of a badass improvising sequence. Number 4. What'd you say? Get Out.
Get out. Sorry, man.
Get out!
Get Out was released in 2017 and still stands out as one of the best horror movies of the past decade, due to the level of originality and creativity brought by Jordan Peele. One of the defining moments of the movie is the fact that the moment Missy talks Chris into one of her hocus pocus sessions, he is doomed without him ever realizing it. Later in the movie, it is revealed that in order to completely bury Chris's consciousness, he needs to go through another one of Misty's sessions, and so he is tied up on a sofa with Misty ready to lecture him to death. This, however, gives Chris the diversion he needed to make, as he tears the covering of the sofa and uses the cotton inside to cover his ears and keep Misty's words from being heard. The realism and the atmosphere in which Chris pulls this off makes this a masterpiece of a scene. Number 3. To Live is to Die, Saw 5. Hunting the Jigsaw Killer in a Saw movie might not be the best choice, but hey, you gotta make do with what the writers make you do, right? FBI agent Strom finds himself gaining the upper hand when he manages to kill one of the Jigsaw Killers, only to find that there is another one lurking right behind.
To avoid the pendulum, all you have to do is destroy the things that have killed.
After getting captured, Strom finds himself battling the numerous traps of the Jigsaw Killer, only to get captured yet again, and then to have his head placed in a box that fills with water after a certain time. Realizing that crying and whining won't do him any good, Strom, like the badass he is, whips out his pocket pen and stabs a hole right in his throat, performing a tracheostomy on himself. This allows him to breathe until the trap ends and saves his life in the process. Had he been a little inaccurate with the position of his pen, he would have killed himself before the Jigsaw Killer could. But due to his resourcefulness and quick thinking, Strahm was lucky enough to live to see another day. It Follows has one of the most bizarre ways of having an entity haunt the characters. Having a mystical infection that causes you to be relentlessly followed by an evil figure is weird.
Everything's okay.
But the fact that you got the infection from having sexual intercourse from the previously infected is even weirder. After finding out that the only way to get rid of this entity is to pass it on to someone else through sex, only to have it return back to you if your cuddle buddy dies, one of the protagonists pulls what we like to call a pro-gamer move. He goes out to the rather wilder places of the city and sleeps with a prostitute, transferring the infection to her and ridding himself of this evil entity. This was one of the smartest and most creative ways to save yourself from something that just won't stop until you've had sex. Number 1. Pushing Their Buttons. Cabin in the Woods. It's rare to see a horror movie with a setting like the one we did in this particular movie. Cabin in the Woods introduced a very cruel and terrifying atmosphere when they revealed that the cabin in which our young group of friends were staying was actually a bait, and they were there to have their blood sacrificed to awaken an ancient entity. So, is this entity the most frightening part of the movie? Not even close. The movie is mostly based on the facility that is right below the cabin, deep into the underground, and there are genetically engineered creatures from various mythos and pop culture to hunt down whoever comes into the cabin. After Dana and Marty manage to break into the facility, they are cornered by some armed soldiers who do not seem to be friendly. In a desperate attempt to survive, they push the button to open all the doors that were containing the creatures that were engineered by the facility. Since the facility didn't have the creatures completely under control, they go on a rampage, slaughtering every single soldier out there and giving Dana and Marty a fighting chance. While rational thinking isn't really something we see often in horror movies, it does make a rather big difference. Having a character do the obvious instead of guiding them into a definite hellhole is something that audiences love, and is something that makes the movie all so memorable. While there are other such incidents that have happened, these were our picks of how intelligent these characters were. So if we missed any major geniuses, do let us know in the comments. And if you liked today's video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and push that subscribe button. And also have that notification bell ringing so you'll be the first ones to know about any of our future updates. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.